For years, millions of viewers believed they knew exactly who Ellen DeGeneres was. She built a career around kindness, generosity, and unforgettable moments that turned everyday people into overnight stars. But as more former employees, young performers, and longtime Hollywood voices began sharing their experiences, that carefully crafted image started to crack. What makes this story even more unsettling is how many old interviews are being viewed through a completely different lens today.
How much money do you have on you right now?
I don't have any money on me.
You don't carry money on you?
No?
No.
I carry money. I mean, it's just a little bit of money on me.
Oh, you do have money on you. Lord have
Man,
mercy. It's all 20s. Where are you going after this?
You know we doing what we plan to do, girl.
Ellen's close friendship with Sean Diddy Combs, her treatment of rising young talent like Grayson Chance, and the wave of workplace allegations surrounding her show have all sparked fresh debate about what was really happening behind the scenes. Now, comedian D.L. Hughley is adding his own perspective, arguing that none of the recent revelations surprised him because he believed the warning signs had been there all along. His comments have fueled an even bigger conversation about celebrity culture, powerful friendships, and the people who stayed silent while benefiting from the system. This isn't just the story of one television host. It's about how carefully managed public images can collide with uncomfortable accusations, why so many former insiders eventually decided to speak out, and how Hollywood's biggest success stories sometimes hide far more complicated realities than audiences ever imagined. For years, appearing on The Ellen DeGeneres Show looked like the opportunity of a lifetime. One viral clip online could suddenly place an unknown child on one of the biggest daytime television stages in America, and almost overnight, that young performer could become a household name. Parents celebrated it, audiences loved it, and Ellen built a reputation as the celebrity who loved giving talented kids their big break. Those moments became one of the show's biggest trademarks. Children who could sing, dance, play instruments, or impress the internet in some unique way were regularly invited onto the program, often receiving standing ovations, gifts, and life-changing exposure. To viewers watching at home, it felt like pure generosity. Looking back now, that same formula is being viewed very differently. Critics have started asking whether taking children directly from social media and placing them into the center of Hollywood brought risks that nobody wanted to acknowledge. Fame can arrive much faster than maturity, and once those young stars entered the entertainment world, they were suddenly surrounded by some of the industry's most powerful figures. One name keeps appearing in those conversations. Sean Diddy Combs visited Ellen's show numerous times over the years. At the time, his appearances were treated like any other celebrity interview, filled with jokes, playful conversations, and lighthearted banter. Some episodes even featured child guests sharing the stage while Diddy participated in the discussions. Years later, after serious allegations against Diddy became public, many viewers returned to those old interviews with an entirely different perspective. Moments that once seemed harmless suddenly sparked uncomfortable questions, especially as clips spread across social media. People also noticed how often the conversations drifted toward late-night parties, celebrity lifestyles, drinking, and relationships. None of those exchanges drew much attention when they originally aired, but the context surrounding them has changed dramatically. Another detail caught the public's attention. After the allegations surrounding Diddy surfaced, Ellen never publicly addressed them, despite having referred to him as a close friend throughout the years and welcoming him onto her show many times. That silence quickly became part of the wider conversation, with online discussions asking whether old celebrity friendships deserved closer examination. What looked like harmless television for years was suddenly being reevaluated piece by piece. And that was only the beginning, because one of Ellen's biggest success stories would soon become one of her harshest critics. One of Ellen's most celebrated discoveries arrived in 2010 when a young singer named Grayson Chance uploaded his piano performance of Lady Gaga's Paparazzi to YouTube. The video exploded online, and before long, Ellen invited him onto her show. What looked like a simple guest appearance quickly turned into something much bigger. Inspired by his talent, Ellen launched her own record label, 1111, with Grayson as its very first artist. At the time, it sounded like a dream scenario. A teenager discovered on YouTube had caught the attention of one of television's biggest stars, and now she was promising to help launch his music career. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Behind the scenes, though, Grayson would later describe a very different experience. Years after leaving the label, he claimed that working with Ellen became far more controlling than he ever expected. According to Grayson, she wanted him to follow a very specific path, one that closely mirrored the rise of Justin Bieber. The comparison wasn't accidental. Both had been discovered online at a young age, both were teenage male singers, and both quickly attracted enormous public attention. Grayson later said he felt enormous pressure to fit that image instead of developing his own identity as an artist. The pressure didn't stop there. Grayson also claimed that Ellen became heavily involved in nearly every part of his career, despite having little experience managing a young recording artist. He later described her behavior as manipulative and opportunistic, saying the relationship gradually shifted from supportive to controlling as expectations continued to grow. Then everything changed when Grayson's second album failed to meet commercial expectations. He alleged that communication suddenly stopped. Calls went unanswered, messages received no response, and according to his account, the person who had once championed his career simply disappeared from it. Years later, Grayson returned to the Ellen DeGeneres show in what viewers saw as a friendly reunion. On camera, Ellen congratulated him for publicly coming out, creating the impression that the two still shared a close relationship. Grayson later revealed he experienced that moment very differently. He called the reunion awkward and staged, explaining that Ellen had played no role in his personal journey because they hadn't spoken for years before that appearance. Seeing their relationship presented as if nothing had happened only deepened his frustration. Grayson eventually spoke publicly about his experience, saying he remained grateful that Ellen had introduced him to a wider audience, but he credited himself for surviving the difficult years that followed after the professional relationship fell apart. His story encouraged others to share their own experiences, and before long, the conversation expanded far beyond one former child star. Former employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show were about to reveal allegations that would change the public's view of the program itself. Grayson Chance's story was only the beginning. As his experience gained attention, former employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show started sharing stories of their own, and what began with a handful of voices quickly turned into dozens of people describing a workplace that looked nothing like the cheerful atmosphere viewers saw on television. Several former staff members claimed there were strict, unwritten rules about interacting with Ellen. According to those accounts, employees were discouraged from making eye contact with her and were expected to wait until she spoke first before saying anything. Others alleged they were criticized over small details, including wearing perfume or cologne that she didn't like. The stories didn't stop there. Some employees described sudden mood swings and tense encounters behind the scenes, while one former staffer claimed they were reprimanded simply for greeting Ellen with "good afternoon" in a hallway. Another account came from a former Warner Brothers employee who said he asked Ellen which floor she wanted while they were riding in an elevator together. He later claimed he received a call from his supervisor informing him that his job had been terminated after the interaction was reported as inappropriate. As more accounts surfaced, the picture became increasingly difficult to ignore. Former staff members also alleged they experienced intimidation, discrimination, and a toxic work culture that sharply contrasted with the show's public image. The smiling, generous personality audiences watched every afternoon was now being questioned by people who said they had witnessed something very different once the cameras stopped rolling. The growing number of allegations eventually drew the attention of Warner Media, which launched an internal investigation into the show's workplace culture. Reports described complaints involving poor treatment, discrimination, and other concerns raised by current and former employees. The investigation became one of the biggest stories surrounding the show, shifting the public conversation away from celebrity interviews and giveaways toward what was happening behind the scenes. Many viewers believe the controversy played a major role in the show's ending. While some pointed to the uncertainty surrounding television during the pandemic, others argued that the growing list of allegations and the investigation had already done lasting damage to the program's reputation. Then another wave of criticism followed. As news coverage intensified, people outside the production also began sharing their own experiences with Ellen. Social media filled with stories from individuals who claimed they had remained silent for years because of Ellen's enormous popularity. Whether every account could be verified or not, the sheer volume of people speaking out changed public perception almost overnight. It was during this period that comedian D.L. Hughley entered the conversation with comments that attracted widespread attention. Rather than expressing surprise at the allegations surrounding powerful figures in entertainment, he explained that none of it shocked him, setting up an even bigger discussion about celebrity friendships, silence, and accountability. For years, Ellen DeGeneres represented kindness, generosity, and second chances. Millions of viewers welcomed her into their homes every afternoon, believing they were watching one of the most genuine personalities on television. That image helped build one of the most successful daytime shows in history, but the stories that surfaced after the cameras stopped rolling painted a far more complicated picture. Grayson Chance's experience, the allegations from former employees, and the renewed attention on Ellen's friendship with Diddy have all fueled an ongoing debate about how much the public really knew. None of those stories prove every claim that's been made, but together they change the way many people look back at moments that once seemed completely ordinary. D.L. Hughley's comments added another layer to that conversation. Rather than focusing on one celebrity, he questioned why so many people only began speaking out after public opinion had already shifted. His argument wasn't simply about Ellen or Diddy. It was about an entertainment industry where powerful relationships often discouraged people from asking difficult questions until much later. Old interviews continue to resurface, former colleagues continue sharing their experiences, and viewers keep revisiting moments they once overlooked. What was once dismissed as harmless celebrity television is now being examined through a very different lens, with every resurfaced clip adding another piece to a much larger discussion. Whether history ultimately remembers Ellen as a groundbreaking television icon whose legacy was overshadowed by controversy, or as someone whose public image never matched what happened behind the scenes, remains a matter of public debate. One thing is certain, though, the conversation isn't ending anytime soon, and as more stories continue to emerge, Hollywood's most carefully protected reputations may face even greater scrutiny. Sometimes the biggest revelations don't come from new footage. They come from old moments that suddenly mean something completely different once the full story begins to unfold.